So welcome all of you panelists. मैं थोड़ा सा ये TYS चैप्टर द यात्री स्टोरी चैप्टर के बारे में जो भी मुझे पता है वो मैं थोड़ा सा बता देता हूँ and then the team can actually add anything if I'm missing out. So the couple of a few people in Delhi started this chapter, the Yatris, ex-Yatris, and it's called the Yatri story, NCR chapter. And I think चार panel discussions हो चुके हैं. Today is the fifth, and the idea was अलग-अलग यात्रीज over a period जो यात्रा में भाग ले चुके हैं. जैसे I was 2011-12 यात्री, so it's been almost 9-10 years. So and I think कुछ यात्री जो इन सेशंस में आए हैं, there are more from recent yatras also. So to kind of one to share what each one of us are doing, staying in the same city, knowing each other, what work we are doing, sharing with each other, and possibly then kind of from there, if people take up network with each other, engage with each other, and take the connections ahead, that could also possibly be the idea. तो उस तरह से शुरू ये हुआ था. हर सेशन का एक थीम होता है जिसमें 5-6 लोग उस थीम के अराउंड काम करने वाले. वी ट्राई टू गेट देम टुगेदर एंड शेयर अबाउट their own ideas and the work that they are doing. So ये है चेतन, आदित्य, पुलकित, पुनीत, ये लोगों ने इस महीने का जो ऑर्गेनाइजिंग टीम है उसमें they have largely been involved. And it's a coincidence, एक वो डिस्कशन आपको पता होगा अगर some of you were also part of the discussion, जहाँ पे व्हाइट हैट जूनियर के एड्स को लेके एक दिल्ली चैप्टर के ग्रुप पे डिस्कशन हुआ था, एंड विच लेड टू अ वेरी जेनेरिक discussion on how education is perceived, and then from there I think this idea came to have a panel where we discuss education with the work and ideas of the panelists that we have today. तो इसलिए ये आज का and since I have been working in and around the idea of education, मैं तब भी अभी समझूंगा नहीं कि पूरी तरह से मैं कुछ बात कर पाऊंगा उस पे, but I was asked whether I'm interested to do this moderation, and I was happy to do it. I hope I'll be able to do justice to the discussion today. I've had interactions with all of you separately. Let's see if we can weave the education story together along with our own stories. So for the audience, we will keep the questions for the end. So लगभग 1 घंटे का discussion among the panelists we will have, and the questions and informal discussions we will keep for the end. So we'll not chip in between. बीच में कोई सवाल आते हैं तो we can keep writing them in the chat box, so that we can go back and refer to them for any discussions later. The session is recorded, so that it will be uploaded later on YouTube for other people to see. And the time is until 6 p.m. So yeah, so we'll try to make best use of the time that we have. 5-7 minute आगे पीछे हो सकता है. Format, as you all know, will be that we have some questions to all the panelists. So we'll go one by one, not by panelists, but by questions. So all the panelists will share their views around one question, and we will go like that in order of the questions. So yeah, so having said that, let's, I think, begin. So welcome all of you panelists, Tarush, Aditya, Baidurjo, Arushi, Vivek. Welcome. आपके काम के बारे में definitely we will discuss, so I'm not getting into detailed introductions. We will do it on our own. Yeah. So first, all of you have shared with me earlier, if you would like to introduce yourself, all the panelists, and I would like you to stick to your personal introduction more than what you do at your own organization. So to more about you, know more about you as a person, क्योंकि बाद में हम आपके ऑर्गेनाइजेशन और आपके काम के बारे में डिटेल में बात करेंगे. So maybe you can come to the point where you thought of either starting your own organization or whatever you are doing right now. तो वहां तक की जर्नी के बारे में हम बात कर सकते हैं. And you have about a minute to do that. So we can start from anywhere. Let's say, Baidurjo, you want to go?
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. I'm Boydur Jo. I'm an engineer by degree, and like around 9 years back, जब मुझे पहले Tech Mahindra से एक offer letter मिला था, I think I already got disillusioned by the corporate sector even before joining. So I straight away jumped into Teach for India, and वहाँ पे I was a municipal school teacher for 2 years, where I spent teaching primary grade children. I think some of the best years of my life was that. उसके बाद I wanted to work in rural India with mostly marginalized communities, and also school leadership was a very interesting space जो मुझे sort of try करना था. तो इसलिए बिहार में there's a गांव called Uran Tola near Patna. तो वहाँ पे there's a residential school for Mahadalit community called the Musahar. I mean, it's traditionally known as the rat-eating communities, which is of course a misnomer in a way. But वहाँ पे उनका एक residential school था, तो वहाँ पे I was a school leader for a year. So after spending 1 year in Bihar, then I moved back to Delhi in 2015, and I played various roles, something to do with school leadership. So initially, I was directly a coach and a trainer to school principals and HMs of the South Delhi Municipal Corporation, New Delhi Municipal Corporation, and also some affordable private schools. And in a year or two back, I was actually designing the curriculum of the organization where I was. And finally, this year, the beginning of this year, I founded my organization, Alokit, again working on school leadership. So yeah, that's a brief introduction of me.
Thank you, Baidurjo. Uh, who else next? Maybe Arushi, you want to go?
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Arushi Yatri 2016. I am the founder of Learning Wheels, and I'm also pursuing my MBA from Babson College in Boston. So I have lived in various parts of India. I did my schooling in Chennai, but I am from Agra, and I did my undergrad in liberal education in Pune, and I currently live in Delhi. So, having had all of these different cultural experiences, I really value life experiences, and that's why I chose to stick to the field of education, or rather, got dragged in it through liberal education itself. And yeah, like from all of these experiences, I've worked with different startups in the private education space, in experiential education, and a little bit of like fellowship experience in teaching also, not too much. So yeah, just seen different sides of education, the gap of it, and I'm trying to do something on my bit.
Sure. Thank you, Arushi. Tarush, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, thank you so much. And I'm Tarush. I was a Yatri in 2013-14. Bedurjo, I listened to your story and I could connect it with the most right now because I am also an engineer by education. And then I had a Tata Consultancy Services offer in hand that I did not take because while in college, I started my journey of exploring the education sector. And this happened because college was the first place where we actually got to know that students, they come from different schools and they get together, and how the primary and the schooling basically defines your character in the very beginning. And eventually, while we were all studying for the same engineering degree and eventually the same job, people who had come from a city life had a very different outlook towards life. They had a very different skill set versus those who had come from, say, a tier 2 city or a rural area. And that struck me, and that is when I started working on BrainWiz while in college. 4 years down the line, within college, we were doing really well. We were working with a lot of schools, a lot of organizations within India, outside India. However, just out of college, we did not know how to scale, how to take that forward. So that's when we took a break. We did not officially stop, but we went to learn things. So from there, I went on to work in the Ministry of Water Resources. I cleared an exam and I got through. I was an engineer there. I also had the experience of working in Bhutan, implementing a huge government of India project there. And I think all of this experience I carry forward now. Immediately after the government job, I was not really excited to be there, to be honest, because the government ways of working are not for everyone. So from there, I always wanted to get back into education. So from there, I took a pro bono consultancy at an NGO. My parents, after 3 years, are still depressed about the fact that I resigned from a government job, but that's how it is. So from there, I learned about implementing programs on ground when I was working with that NGO. And from there to last year, 2018 to be precise, is when we restarted BrainWiz. And this was the idea. And now the idea is to basically provide students with the skills that can directly help them in employment. And not only employment, but also to have a harmonious life within the society that they live in, within the environment that they are in. So yes, this is BrainWiz. Right now, we're working with a lot of organizations. I think, like Kshitij said, we are going to be covering that in the next sections of this. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Tarush. Vivek, another engineer in the group.
Thank you so much. First of all, the Yatri group, and it's so amazing to be in this company. Every tribe has a story, so more or less all introduction will look similar. If you are in Zoom call, if you are a Yatri, then stories will be similar. But my introduction will be almost the same, right? आप किरदार बदल दो, कहानी same है. तो मैं उस पे नहीं जाऊंगा, लेकिन I would really like to highlight something very interesting in my introduction is that Patil specifically said, let's talk about our personal life, right? And not professional. And there's a reason that, we all spoke about professional life, because one is that personal and professional is intertwined. And second, there's a reason that we all are working in education, right? Because we don't have very fond memories of our school. We like 18 years, we all might be in 20s, and I'm assuming, or early 30s, but 1/3 of our life and we don't talk about at all, right? लोग ने start किया engineering से, यहाँ से मैंने इस college में MBA कर रहा हूँ. So you're already talking about last 4-5 years of your life, right? But the first 18 years, 20 years, such an interesting part of your life, and we just don't talk about that. So yeah, so I've grown up, doing theater. I've grown up in Bihar. I've been to a reasonably good school in Patna and then moved to Delhi. Always interested in arts, but never got an opportunity to do that because there was no one talking to me as an equal partner in school. Forget about parents, even teachers, right? There was always this hierarchy. So I always grew up looking for space where I can be myself, always looking for space. So I grew up, constantly seeking attention from my parents, from my friends. So that's a very interesting part of my introduction. I grew up wanting to be going to hostel because my brother was sent to hostel and he used to get a lot of attention. So I grew up as an insecure child. I grew up as a dreamer, but nowhere to write my dreams. And that's why we turn up engineer, because engineer, you don't need to dream, right? Someone tells you what to do and you go and do, right? So that's not part of my identity that I relate to. And I would like to share with this group, which seems to be very passionate about a part of me which I can relate to, which is to dream, which is to act, which is to write, which is to talk, which is to watch, which is to play. And all of this combines and makes me who am I today. And unfortunately, despite going to reasonably good school, I couldn't have that space where, I could be interacted thinking as an equal partner, or who am I, or what I want to do. 18 years, if you do some basic maths, it's 50,000 hours, 50,000 hours of basically spending time just in school. And we don't talk about that, right? We talk about our college and MBAs and fellowships. So that's I am. And today I am here because I like talking, because the more I talk to you, the more I know about myself. The more I was listening to Bedur, Arushi and Tarush, the more I got to know about myself. So I'm really grateful to be part of this. And By the amazing work, amazing school. I've had the chance to meet. Really want to appreciate and acknowledge that as well. Just lovely work. I've been there. Fantastic. So yeah, Kshitij, that's a long introduction, but it was important to highlight this as well because
Thank
you
you.
asked a different question, and yeah.
Thank you, Vivek. बिल्कुल. तो आदित्य, I think like Vivek said, किरदार बदल दो, नाम बदल दो, किरदार वही है. तो आप भी थोड़ा आपके बारे में anything that you want to share.
Definitely. First of all, I would like to start by saying that I did something which was very different from most of the panelists here, engineering. So, you know, वही I think एक कहावत है क्या, पत्थर उठा के मारो इंजीनियर को ही लगेगी. मारना मत actually, but you know, I'm always surprised to see that in any crowd that we go to, there are so many engineers, you know, who were engineers in the past, who at least studied engineering in some form or the other. So that's my story as well. Grew up wanting to be a computer science engineer. Later on, realized that computer programming does not really appeal to me. Since then on, I became a student of education, educational technology, and entrepreneurship. I really enjoy studying these subjects and being a part of implementation in these subjects. And these are the only subjects that I really want to work hard in, want to achieve something in. इससे पहले मैं सिर्फ exams के लिए पढ़ता था. So, this was the first time I noticed myself doing something just for the heck of it and not to score marks and not to, seek validation from the society. So that's how I discovered my passion into these fields. Other than that, I love watching Bollywood movies. I loved watching sports. अभी तो बहुत कम हो गया है. But I was a big fan of cricket and football, etc. So and I love listening to music and sometimes singing, but only in bathrooms. So yeah, that's a short introduction.
Thank you, everyone. Great introductions, actually. तो let's move on. तो मैं थोड़ा सा ये जानना चाहूंगा अभी कि so all of us touched up a little on, not all of us, some of us touched up a little on what we do also. तो और विवेक जो कह रहा था कि हम बहुत इंटरट्वाइंड है हमारा पर्सनल और प्रोफेशनल लाइफ एक तरह से. तो फ्रॉम योर पर्सनल टू योर प्रोफेशनल लाइफ, और जो भी आप अभी कर रहे हो, लाइक ऑल ऑफ यू हैव started your own organization or co-founded an organization. तो वो भी एक एलिमेंट उसमें है. तो what is the philosophy, या what is the vision or idea that drove you to do what you are doing now? So we are not even getting into आप क्या करते हैं और किसके साथ करते हैं, क्या मॉडल है. We are not going there. पर उससे पहले, मतलब शुरू करने से पहले, what was the motivation, philosophy या vision that led you into doing what you are doing today? If you can share that, and we can start from anywhere. Maybe Arushi, if you want to go first.
Okay. So I think I already mentioned like how I studied liberal education, and I think I should just start with that because usually people don't know about it. And I'm always the misfit in the group because I'm usually within a lot of engineers around me. So basically it's the concept of doing different subjects. There are like 5 universes: social studies, sciences, cultural studies, which includes languages, and 2 other things that I'm not getting right now. Yeah, performing arts and others. So basically, like, you pick up subjects from different spaces and you are introduced to like a larger context. Instead of getting deep or specializing in something, you do specialize in it towards the end. But initially, you're just exposed to different subjects. So I picked up, and the reason was because I came from a very conventional schooling system, very old school, very well established. And like how Vivek mentioned, that even though it was a great school, they never had humanities or arts, right? So it was just like engineering, medical, and CA bano bus. So that really pulled me that, okay, I want to get out of this system. I want to explore other things. And I took up subjects like philosophy, psychology, and, like sculpture and dance. And even then I was struggling and I didn't know what I was doing, why I had taken this up, and everything was a mess. But eventually that really helped me understand that everything is intertwined. And that's why education was such a fascinating fascinating space to be in because it is intertwined. As a space itself, there are so many challenges, right? You also mentioned, Kshitij, in your question that what is it about education that drives you? It's the opportunities. It's just that there are so many things to solve. You think that you can pick up one and then you'll move to others eventually. It's not a dead end. It's not a space that will end with what you're doing. So that was one point, like liberal education. Then the yatra happened. It was in my final year, so it was very self-explanatory, exploratory, and also like getting to meet people. And then finally I read this book somewhere sometime then called The Promise of a Pencil. It's by Adam Braun, and this guy's journey really like related with mine because he was very young and he wanted to get into social entrepreneurship and nobody supported him, and somehow today he went ahead with that journey, and today he has helped set up 400 plus schools across the world, right? So it was that okay, I want to solve this one problem, and with that there was only implementation ahead. There was no confusion. So that is something I aspire in the problem solving aspect. I want to pick up one area, just work towards that, and do good for the society.
Vivek, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Arushi. I think Arushi has covered most of it. I think, as I've shared, the personal and professional lives are so intertwined because, despite going to a reasonably uh, good school, so-called, you can read English medium school, there wasn't any opportunity for me to discover, what I want to do. So I think the fundamental philosophy behind whatever we are doing today, or what kind of prompted us to start Shamtale, as the word loosely translates into school of potential, that, as you all must be aware, the word education means nourishing, right? To raise, to. So what is the role of education? What kind of education do we need? And then there are several institutions which plays a part, right? So, and what role does school plays in educating, right? School is just not education. School is a platform or a vehicle where you get part of education. So, but it plays a massive role. So what kind of role does school has to play in today's time in education, and what it's playing right now? There's a tension between the role that it has to play and the role it is playing right now. So the whole idea was to kind of, how do you change that, right? How do you create dialogue around changing that? And that can only happen if you demonstrate that. So the entire philosophy is, what is education, what's worth learning today, and how do you create spaces for, self-directed learning, an agency where a child has an agency to learn as well, right? So in that sense, that's the entire, you can say, philosophy around Shamtale. And one thing that really has haunted me in the past is learning has become a task to be avoided when possible. How do you change that? How do you revive the spirit of learning in schools? So in some ways, all this thing kind of led us to start Shamtale. And also, this is there's a caste system that will exist in education. And when I say caste system, is like, there's academic learning for some people, foundational literacy and numeracy for some people, then there's mental and emotional well-being for some people, and then there's vocationalization for some people. So different people needs to have access to different education, where the education, the whole idea is it has to come as one. It can't be differentiated into social emotional learning, academics, vocation, and life skills. These are all are one, right? You can't have one part for a group of society. So in that sense, Shamtale was, how do you integrate all this and ensure that every child has access to integrated and holistic education?
Yeah. Thank you, Vivek. So very two different ideas we have heard. Maybe Tarush, you want to share why you are doing what you are doing now in short, if I
Sure.
ask.
I will also like to take forward Vivek's point, but from the last question, which is around talking about your school. I think, yes, schooling is a part of our life which defines us for the rest of our life. And this is something that I personally discovered when I got into college. And I also come from a fairly good school in Delhi. And I was blessed to have that certain kind of education that probably some students are not blessed with. And this is one difference that we kind of discovered when we entered college. There was a huge contrast between the kinds of students coming from different parts of the country. And that motivated us to work on this, basically standardizing the soft skills or the personality development skills. Or if you go and work with the Indian Army or the armed forces, they call it the officer-like qualities or the OLQs. And it is essentially the same set of skills that everyone is talking about: critical thinking, problem solving, leadership, communication, social skills, etiquettes, uh, things like covering socio-emotional learning. You talk about empathy and compassion. And these are the skills that allow individuals to interact within their societies. The kind of distress that you see in the country and in the world right now, I think a lot of it can be tackled by just being receptive and tolerant towards other opinion. And that is something that we are not teaching our students in the schools. And this is something that I really wanted to pursue. So there's something called as education for sustainable development. Now, what this means is, there are these set of skills that I just talked about, and there are a lot of different ways to enhance these skills. Someone like White Hat Junior is doing that through coding. If you go and code for an hour, you work on a certain set of skills, right? And this is something that White Hat Junior is also exploiting. Uh, Education for sustainable development says that if you connect individuals with their surroundings, if you empower them, if you first make them understand what's wrong, and then help them curate the solutions for it, and then empower them to implement those solutions, in this entire process, they not only come closer to their own surroundings, they become more empathetic towards their own living situations. But in this entire process, their 21st century skills or the soft skills or the personality traits also get enhanced. And this is something that we are working on. And there are various advantages of working on something like this, primarily being that it can very easily be integrated with the ongoing curriculum. And then a lot of developments like the new education policy talks about these skills very extensively. So this is where we are, and this is what we are doing. If I have time, I can quickly share a little story that we did on how we tested this entire thing with a group of students in an urban poor section in Delhi. And when we talk about sustainable development, most of us, we are inclined towards thinking about the environment and climate change. But sustainability is beyond that. When we talk about students coming from a slum in Delhi, they have their sustainability challenges of their own. Recycling is a part of their daily life, so let's not teach them recycling. But they have sustainability challenges of their own: substance abuse, the way gender is abused in their societies, the way students do not know their rights, their women in their families do not know their rights. And these are all a part of sustainability issues for any community. So we worked with this particular group of students in a school in a slum. And during this process, we empowered them to understand these things. We told them about the powers that the Constitution grants them. We told them about the institutions that safeguard children's rights. We told them how they just need to respect their elders and their sisters. And this 6-month long project was a pilot to basically test if our pedagogies are working or not. And we took a lot of assessments. There were tracking that was happening along this way. And students, they responded to the things that we were teaching them or we were talking about. And you find case studies like this internationally. So Scandinavian countries, they pioneer a lot of these learning pedagogies, and even the US. And this is something, ESD, or Education for Sustainable Development, is something that is coined by UNESCO. So they are working extensively on this. And there's a lot of research to show that when students are exposed to this kind of education, they respond to it in a very positive manner. So this is what we are also working on in Brainwaves.
Sure. Thank you, Tarush. Aditya, if you want to share your philosophy behind starting Pro Bono.
Sure. So I think my story is pretty similar to Arushi said. When I was also in school, same thing. I also only knew about engineering, doctor, and maybe CA. Now, when I, graduated class 10th, I had a decent percentage. So then there's a society given template. अच्छी percentage आई तो science ले लो, ठीक ठाक आ गई तो commerce ले लो, थोड़ी कम आ गई तो arts ले लो, which I don't know why it is there, but at that time I tended to follow society's template and I took up science without thinking too much about what I really want to do, because at that time I only knew 2 career options. I had chosen by default that I'll become a computer engineer because of 2-3 things. Firstly, I thought that IIT के एग्जाम में अच्छा करूंगा तो मुझे काफी रिकॉग्निशन मिलेगी, लोग काफी तारीफ करेंगे. That was something in the subconscious. And on the front foot, it was a feeling that I'll be really good at computer programming because I was good at troubleshooting small problems of a computer. When I was a kid, just formatting a Windows drive or installing an antivirus was enough to give you the so-called title of Mac genius of your area. So um, I was the so-called computer genius, and plus, an uh, academically excellent student. So because of this, I never really thought about anything else apart from engineering. I did not even know what other subjects are there in commerce or arts. So when I actually went to do engineering, I realized that computer programming is pretty different from what I had done in school, and this was somehow not attracting enough interest from me. At that time, also I was exploring other clubs because we never really had too many extracurricular activities in school. So there is something called debate, and there's a music club. I was fascinated by everything, so I joined every club in college. So by that time, I saw this advertisement of a business plan competition online, and I wanted to apply because I wanted to be the best at everything in college. So when I thought of applying, obviously I needed to have an idea. So I asked my other friends, other roommates, mechanical, civil engineering aspirants, that why have you joined your particular branch? Now the stories which I heard, मेरे चाचा अच्छे सिविल इंजीनियर है, इसलिए मुझे अच्छा सिविल इंजीनियर बनना है, वो अच्छा कमाते हैं. So what makes a person sure कि वो और किसी फील्ड में अच्छा नहीं कमा सकते? So it's limited exposure mostly. मुझे अगर अपने गांव का पहला इंजीनियर बनना है, वो इसलिए नहीं है क्योंकि मैंने बहुत सारे ऑप्शंस में से इंजीनियर चूज किया है. मुझे पता ही नहीं है कि डिजाइनर का कोई ऑप्शन भी है, तो 2 ही चीजें पता थी, उसमें से मैंने इंजीनियरिंग चूज कर दिया, क्योंकि प्रीटी मच श्योर अगर जिस गांव में इंजीनियर नहीं है, उस गांव में शायद से ग्राफिक डिजाइनर भी नहीं है. So I saw all these reasons come from majorly two things: either societal stereotypes or parental unfulfilled dreams. And that is what I wanted to change. So, I went ahead in that business plan competition with an idea that we'll make a brick and mortar school, which will teach career guidance along with, not career guidance, we'll teach, different career based subjects. We'll allow students to explore, because that's what I saw as something which was lacking in my journey. That had I explored computer science, I would have known that I'm not interested in it. So when I started, pitching this idea, I started receiving a lot of negative feedback. Now my usual reaction, I was 19 years old at that time, 18, 19. So very immature, even more immature than I am right now. So I had a very weird reaction to people who used to criticize me. So whenever people gave me negative feedback, I was like, nahi problem to isme hai. So, but this was the first time I received negative feedback. I wanted to work on it. That maybe let me try and improve this idea. So I then made it an idea based on a web-based platform for studying career-based subjects. Then I started winning business plan competitions. So it started from a place where I wanted to win a lot of business plan competitions for prize money and for attaching those certificates on my CV, which will get me a good job. But by the 4th year, I had decided, I was studying about education and entrepreneurship. And as I told in my introduction, any studies that I did was only to score good marks in an exam, which was maybe 2-3 days before that. So I never really studied for the heck of studying or for learning. I studied to get marks. So I started noticing that for the first time, I'm doing something without being forced by any authority or by my parents. I'm genuinely doing courses in education, entrepreneurship by myself, for myself. So that is when I decided probably this is what my calling is. So I'll rather start my startup. And ultimately, after iterating the idea, it is now a career guidance platform which provides career counseling, also career based courses, mentoring, and soft skill enhancement to class 9 to 12 students and to college students.
Thank you, Aditya. A little different perspective than the others. Yeah. Baidurja, if you want to share your story.
Sure. Now, so how I'm in the field of school leadership. Now I'll tell you an interesting thing. So what I realized is, if you look at any organizations, if you look at organization, if you look at a nation, we are always very critical about the leaders, right? Be it the prime minister, the chief minister, be it the CEO of any organization we have been, because we know that these leaders always have a very disproportionate influence on our outcomes, on our work culture, on our career growth, everything, right? And that's why leaders are always looked up, they're criticized, they're critiqued. And also, on the other hand, they ensure that organizations, when they are getting some new leaders on board, they're very competent, they're very trained, right? Now, India has over 25 crore children, school going children right now, in about 15 lakh schools, right? And in these 15 lakh schools, approximately 70% are government schools. So more or less, we can say, they are catering to students from families who are not really well off or not rich per se. So they have a lot of aspirations to sort of climb up in the socioeconomic ladder. But if you look at the people who are heading these schools, either you'll find a lot of these schools do not have a school leader, which is a HM or a principal. If there is any school leader, you will see most of them are just got promoted and without any training, or there is not even any proper selection or criteria for them to get the position of the HM or the principal in the first place. Now, this first struck me how important this role of school leadership is when I was a municipal school teacher in Pune. So when I was teaching as a TFI fellow over there, I realized that I had a lot of liberty to do what I want. So I could teach my students well beyond the school hours, 5 baje, 6 baje tak, even though the school ended at 1 p.m. I had the keys to my library. I could, lock the doors of the school and go after 5-6 hours when the school was over. And none of this was because I had some special charm, right? Like, aisa kuch nahi tha. It's only because there was this HM ma'am who really trusted me and who encouraged me to sort of study and teach, not study, sorry, teach the students. And what I realized, a lot of my peers didn't have these kind of privileges. And that's when I realized how huge influence a good school leader can be, not just teachers, but also eventually on the students. And so, like Vivek brought a very interesting point, which I really like, that how the first 18 years, which of course forms a big part of our identity, but we never really go back to that. It's always about the different labels we have acquired after that, which always comes into a narrative. I think one of the primary reasons is because maybe that has been the core of what we are. And we may be angry about it, we may be reflective about it, but somewhere those were the causes. And what my work really wants to do is, how can we have a positive influence on the causes of those child's the most tender years of their lives? A lot of research shows that school leader is one of the factor in influencing student outcomes, be it learning, be it how happy they are, be it how safe they feel. And that is the primary reason for me to start off Alokit, in which we are working with school leaders who are especially students from the disadvantaged backgrounds.
Great. Thanks, Baldeep ji. So, what I was like going through in my mind is, बहुत सारी चीजों के साथ हम connect करते हैं. So while I'm listening to your stories, Aditya is saying education and entrepreneurship. Vivek is saying that मतलब लाइफ के पहले 18 साल कैसे गुजर रहे हैं, 14 साल, 16 साल, एंड एवरीबडी हैज अ स्टोरी टू कनेक्ट टू. तो मैं अपने बारे में सोच रहा था, लॉट ऑफ इश्यूज दैट आई आल्सो फील कनेक्टेड टू. एजुकेशन इज वन ऑफ देम, एंड देयर इज अ पर्सनल स्टोरी बिहाइंड इट कि क्यों मुझे लगता है कि एजुकेशन बेहतर होना चाहिए, एंड चिल्ड्रन डिजर्व टू हैव good learning experiences, and I committed to probably this interest area of mine. Doesn't mean that I'm not interested in, say, political change or environmental change or say anything else. पर वो सब छोड़ के मैंने ये किया, and I'm probably doing something. I've formed an organization. लोग हैं मेरे साथ और एक मॉडल है, एक स्कूलों में काम करते हैं, इस तरह से करते हैं. तो so you commit to that cause and then you ultimately try and get on to do something for it. मतलब पॉलिटिकल चेंज के बारे में मैं रोज बात करता हूँ चाय पीते पीते, लेकिन उसके लिए मैं कुछ कर नहीं रहा हूँ. तो पर इसके लिए मैं कुछ कर रहा हूँ, तो वो क्या, नाउ इफ यू कैन डिस्कस दैट. Okay, so now you've got interested into something and you feel connected to something, and there is a philosophy and vision behind it. तो जब वो करते हो आप, तो कैसे, हाउ आर यू एक्चुअली डूइंग इट ऑपरेशनली, वो कैसे होता है? how is it reaching the students or say teachers or the school leaders that Baidur Jo was talking about? तो उसके आपके ऑपरेशनल मॉडल और ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के बारे में थोड़ा सा if you can tell us, and anyone, maybe Tarush can start.
Sure, I would love to. So essentially, we talked about 21st century skills. And first of all, I would like to congratulate everyone for being here, because all these stories, अभी तक जितने भी हमने बातें की है वो काफी सही हैं, काफी सही बातें हैं, क्योंकि it just goes to tell that people who are working in this sector are really connected to this sector. They have their personal stories to tell, and hence they are here, and not because they just cleared an exam and got into that government job. So we started with working with students. That was the idea, because हमें बच्चों के skills enhance करने हैं, तो उनके साथ काम करना important है. And the first thing that you do is that you find places to work, places to implement your program, and then you eventually go and implement those programs there. The biggest challenges that we started facing when we started working with kids, and this is, I'm talking about after we had done our pilots and after we had proven our pedagogies and everything. The biggest challenges that you face when you want to work with schools are that बच्चे हमसे ज़्यादा busy हैं, मतलब वो बेचारे स्कूल जाते हैं, ट्यूशन जाते हैं, पेरेंट्स की एस्पिरेशंस फुलफिल करते हैं, लाइक मोर देन जस्ट प्रोफेशनल एस्पिरेशंस. पेरेंट्स को चाहिए कि बच्चा म्यूजिक में भी लीडर होना चाहिए और सब चीजें आनी चाहिए. And it became really difficult because schools के अंदर just to find that half an hour in their timetable is very difficult. You cannot go and work with schools like that. Secondly, when we go and work with schools, if I'm working with 20 schools, I essentially am working with 20 trainers also, whom first I have to train on implementing my programs, and then quality becomes an issue. And then finally, because I am dealing with such constraints, and if I'm working with 50 kids or 100 kids, then just because of economies of scale, just sustaining that business becomes a huge challenge. So for the initial 6, 7 months, 8 months, we tried to explore this model. In 2019, we were working on this model, and we were also doing some government partnerships on this model. However, in somewhere in mid 2019, we wanted to pivot to an online model. And Baidur Joy, this is where your comments will come into picture, because we realized that more than just training the students, we need to really empower the teachers. Right now, the new education policy talks extensively about 21st century skills, but it does not give a guideline on how do you implement that. CBSE से अभी someone's interview I saw on a news channel, and they said it will take them 2 years to prepare content in alignment with the new education policy. So essentially, we are wasting another 4-5 batches, because 2 साल में वो content बनेगा, फिर वो pilot होगा, फिर वो implement होगा. And now that at a policy level, we are talking about 21st century skills, we are still not able to operationalize it. So we realized the importance of making the teachers really in charge of this kind of education. So what we did was that last year we started developing our online learning platform, and this year it's complete. It's in we have rolled it out. We have a lot of users on it already. The idea is that we partner with organizations and we partner with schools. Now the organizations, they contribute content to it, and that content remains available for everyone who is there on the platform. And the schools, we then do capacity building for those schools to essentially use that content, and they can then use that content as supplementary content or summer vacation assignments or anything basically that they want to. And because this becomes a collaborative effort, where even if a school is paying for a piece of content, or together they are paying for a piece of content, then it becomes available to everyone who's on the platform. And hence, we are able to offer something like this at a cost of rupees 25 per month to every user, which we personally feel is something that everyone can afford, and everyone should pay some money to access to some service. And this money is something that we utilize for their digital security on our platform. So this is how we are trying to operationalize it. Now that the platform is in place and the courses are in place and the curriculum is in place, now we go and partner with schools, and we tell them that, hey, do you want to have your curriculum or have your academics around the new education policy? This is how we can help you. And then we train the teachers, we offer the content to the students, we offer a dashboard to the schools where they can go and they can see what their students are doing on the platform. And because it's a subscription model, the schools and the students are not paying for 5 courses that they're accessing or 10 courses that they're accessing. So basically everything is available to them. Beyond their school studies, if a student wants to go and explore that, how does the Indian democracy function, they can learn it on our platform. Or if they want to just know how do you participate in a Model United Nations conference that is happening in the school next to mine, they can just simply learn it on the platform, because all that is available, because someone else has already gotten that made for someone. So this is how we have operationalized our entire model.
Great, great, great. Thanks, Tarush. Thanks. I will just add one bit to my question. Tarush has, of course, shared one example of a program, but while rest of you share the model, you can also maybe take us through one example of a project or a program so that we have clearer idea. And let's try and stick to the time because we have 2-3 more questions to discuss. Yeah, maybe whoever. Aditya, do you want to go?
Sure, thanks, Kshitij. I think I think I've already told the origin story. So that's where the model came from. That I really wanted to provide career guidance, as in starting with career exploration to high school students. That was the initial idea. Uh, I kept iterating it. The iteration happened through appearing in a lot of business plan competitions during the idea stage. Then having done a lot of online courses from edX, Udemy, and Coursera. These were really helpful. After I graduated, and that's when I started to believe that sales is the best feedback. Till the time I took surveys, people were like, "हाँ जरूर लेंगे आपका सर्विस जितने भी पैसे में आप ऑफर करो." After I really started selling it, वो सारे लोग पीछे हट गए. So I started to understand कि हाँ मतलब when you sell, that's when you get real feedback. So um, it was a vicious circle initially. I tried to enter a lot of schools, but there was no way. So I went to the gates of schools. The guards used to tell me email karo. Email kiya, nobody checks. I call the schools, the receptionist says, "You please mail, we'll reply back." So till the first 2-3 months, nothing happened. So that is when I really worked on the model, and my journey started. So now we provide career guidance through a multiple step process, as I already described. So we start off with career counseling, which helps you understand on the basis of what factors should I make the right career choice. Why should I know these factors in the first place, and how to know these factors about myself. So basically, how to understand my interests, my values, my capabilities, etc. Then we make them understand what are the different career options available to them, so that they can see the menu card before offering or ordering rather. And finally, how do they plan their career path ahead once they have mapped their own skills, their own personalities to a particular career option, and they have chosen what do they want to become in the future. How do they become that? How do they plan for it? So that is career counseling. After that, we expose them to a mentor from a field which they have chosen, somebody who is already successful in that particular field. So let's say somebody wants to become a career counselor, probably I will be, or somebody else from our team will be his or her mentor. If somebody wants to become a journalist, then I'll connect him or her to a journalist, like that. So that they get a real sense of what is happening in the field right now, and what are the challenges, what's a usual day like, etc. Then we provide career-based courses. So we are looking to build many more career-based courses, but right now we have 3. So we have entrepreneurship, law, and automobile technology, which provide exposure to these particular fields, give you a look and feel of basically how that profession will end up if you do pursue it in the future. So actually doing stuff makes you realize whether you are well meant for that particular profession, or whether it was a myth. Because आप टीवी पर देखते हो सनी देओल वहां पे चिल्ला रहा है तारीख पे तारीख तारीख पे तारीख, आपको लगता है वाह ये ऐसे ही करना है, लॉयर बनते हैं ऐसे, this will really kind of give birth to the heroism from within, but actually ऐसा होता नहीं है law courts में. So वो myths पर आप कितना चल सकते हो, that's another thing which we try to prevent. And finally, and this I recently discovered, there are so many soft skill startups, but ground level pe we haven't been able to provide even maybe 50% of the students with basic English speaking skills, with basic creativity, teamwork, etc. So I thought that maybe we should include that also in our offering, since we are already talking to these students, and since we already have access. So now it's a 4-step process, including soft skill enhancement, and we charge to the schools or the NGOs or CSR initiatives, and sometimes the parents of individual students who avail these services. We're a for-profit company, and The good part about our model is that we still adhere to a kind of Robin Hood pricing. So private schools pay somewhere from 499 to 4,999 per student, but government schools get to pay 99 to 999 per student, and that also makes business sense for us because government schools do give us a lot of volumes as well. So I get projects for 17 schools, 36 schools from CSR or NGO initiatives, and yeah, that's what in short the model is. The idea is to democratize career guidance because I never had the intention to go and work with rural areas students. Genuinely speaking, I never thought that government will be so kind to me, and I'll be able to indulge into the documentation that's needed to get these contracts. But when I first time, when I went to a village school, a rural area school, I discovered that these students needed much more. um, to give you a very small example, I went into a village called Lodi Deshgara in Rajasthan, and I gave my usual career guidance session. So I did not talk about any advanced career options, unconventional ones like stand-up comedy or maybe dolphin trainer, etc. We just talked about basics: teacher, law, engineer, doctor, pilot, etc., which people already know. But I wanted to kind of help students understand how do they become that and why should they choose a particular profession. A student came up to me, told me कि भैया बहुत अच्छा सेशन था. सो आई थॉट कि बेचारे बच्चों को लगा होगा इतनी एक घंटे से मेहनत कर रहा है, इसकी थोड़ी तारीफ कर देते हैं. तो मैंने पूछा कि मतलब सच में आपको अच्छा लगा कि आप ऐसे ही बोल रहे हो. तो इज लाइक नहीं सच में अच्छा लगा. क्या अच्छा लगा? सो इज लाइक हम लोग डिस्कस कर रहे थे इससे पहले, आप जब सेशन देने आ रहे थे, कि हमें पता नहीं था ये लॉयर और ये टीचर इतने सारे प्रोफेशनल फील्ड्स है. सो मैं सोच रहा था कि पापा के साथ पत्थर तोड़ूंगा 12th के बाद. सो इन राजस्थान दे हैव दीज ह्यूज stones which they break and make tiles out of it. So they call it stone breaking factories, पत्थर तोड़ने वाली फैक्ट्री. वहां पर वो डेली वेज लेबर का सोच रहा था 12th के बाद. मुझे लगा इसकी पढ़ाई वढ़ाई में उतना अच्छा नहीं होगा. तो आज दिन की आपकी परसेंटेज कितनी आई थी 11th में? He's like 75. मेरा दिमाग घूम गया. मैंने कहा कि यार यहाँ पे दिल्ली में 40% वाले हम लोग कुछ कुछ करते फिरते हैं. So why shouldn't this guy get a chance to maybe step into whichever career he or he likes or his classmates like. So then I discovered that, even certain words and just a session can make such a big difference. Why don't we make it accessible to all the students across India? And considering career guidance as an ecosystem, if I were to say in Hindi, हम लोग कुछ नहीं उखाड़ पाए, बहुत कम students तक पहुंचा है. So hopefully through my lifetime and the other people who are pursuing this particular field, we'll be able to propagate this noble initiative across India.
Thanks. Thank you, Aditya. Vivek, do you want to go? Tell us a little bit about Shamtalay and how you do it.
Thank you. First of all, lovely work, Tarush and Aditya and Arushi. I think we would be more than eager to partner with you as well, especially, how do you create a thriving ecosystem, right, for adolescent to kind of, choose a career where things that they want to do, right? I think one of the critical pillars of learning is autonomy, right? If you get autonomy, if you get to decide what you want to do, I think the trajectory just changes. So congratulations, I would love to kind of talk about this offline as well. So I'm glad I'm here. Shamtalay is a non-profit company. It's a Section 8 non-profit company. We have in the past worked in Delhi, Rajasthan, and Karnataka as well. And we also recently have signed an MOU with Jharkhand, Ranchi District Administration. And we also right now like in conversation with Madhya Pradesh government for a partnership. So these are, so in some ways, we work on 3 core areas, which is called learning, well-being, and governance. So these are the 3 things. And our strategy of achieving this has been working with government school and communities. And the strategy has been building local leadership around these 3 domains, right? Which also I think Baidure talked about, right? Means I also totally believe you can take a program out of a place, but you can't take a leadership out of that place, right? Leadership always stays there. So this is what we do. A certain program that we run is obviously, Abhilasha is there on this call. She has been Yatri as well. She leads our Delhi program, which is kind of, how do you, most of us on this Zoom call are outliers, right? How do you ensure this happens and every child gets this opportunity, right? We have been exposed to some Yatra fellowship, some liberal art fellowship. Something has happened in our life where our trajectory has moved. But imagine, as you said, there are 15 lakh government schools, right? And they need someone to push their trajectories, right? So how do you do that? So we work in Delhi municipal schools, and the whole idea is how schools can be center of excellence. And as you rightly said, 70-80% of children still go like they depend on government school. And the idea of whole school transformation is we work on specifically three vertical. One is kind of thematic learning, which also NEP talks about finally, that when a child is in primary school, they don't engage with disciplines. They don't go, okay, I will do maths, I will do now social science. Learning is integrated. So how do you kind of ensure every child get access to thematic learning? The other thing that we do is how do you create spaces in schools which Aditya has been talking, where child can get exposed to different learning mediums. We call them Uran, or self-organized integrated learning spaces, where a child gets autonomy to decide how to learn and what to learn and why to learn. And that itself builds a very different kind of mental faculty, right? So the whole idea through Uran and Tinkering Lab is to build kind of creative potential of a child. And then how do you create demand for this quality education, right? Because eventually we all have been to some school. I am assuming if no one has gone to government school, then NGOs might not be working. I went to a school which was reasonably okay school, but there was no NGO coming to that school. And the teachers are also not that qualified, but there's some level of governance that happens, right? There's some level of accountability which is completely missing from the public institutions. So that only happens because how do you create demand for that, right? So we have a program called Learning Festival, right? So how do you bring back the spirit of learning back? And the Learning Festival, it happens 4 times in a year. And the whole idea is expose children to different learning mediums like, electronics, stitching and embroidery, theater, storytelling, language, music, right from early on, not as a vocation, but as a medium to, build how do you respond to ambiguity? How do you work with a team? How do you collaborate? How do you empathize? Right? These are the things that you need to kind of build very early on. And then on the last day of festival, it's a 6-day program, the entire parent, the bureaucracy, they come and see. And the whole idea of doing that is to create a tension between what's possible and what's happening, so that there's a far more demand for the same, right? Because one NGO or one leader in that area is not gonna change this. We live in a country of scale, so you need to improve governance. So this is what we have been doing in Delhi. And similarly in Rajasthan, our approach, like the design principle remains the same, but the approach is we work at a block level, and we see block as a unit of systemic change. State is too big, district again is too big to manage, panchayat is too small. How do you bring about a holistic change at block level? Block has generally 20-25 panchayats, 30 panchayat, a population of 3 lakh, around 300 school. How do you ensure that every child in that block gets high quality education? At the same time, also spaces in school where they get to choose what they want to do, how they want to learn. And something which we kind of really focus a lot is learning how to learn. So the 1990s, we talked about sustainable development goals. 1990s was about access. Then we moved to, okay, access and learning. And now for the first time, NEP talks about children in school, learning, and also learning how to learn. I think that's very critical because, on a lighter note, I don't think, NEP is there. We don't need to create more content. NEP doesn't need content, it needs intent, right? Because how do you create content for things that you don't know, right? We have no idea how the life will look like after 5 years. So how do you build mental muscles to deal with ambiguity and not really building content, right? And whole this idea of 21st century life skill also needs to be challenged, which we have done through Learning Festival, that these life empathy, compassion, problem solving, if we wouldn't have these life skills in 15th century, 16th century, we wouldn't have been sitting here and doing what we're trying to do right now. So these are skills which are just skills of any century. The skill of this century basically is how do you respond to ambiguity, and COVID-19 has shown that. And unfortunately, we don't do that in schools. And the outlier group that exists here, we can go into some kind of fellowships and liberal art places and get. So how do you create spaces in school where there's autonomy? They get exposed to different learning medium in school, and they choose how, why, and basically what to learn. And basically through learning festivals and school transformation program, we are able to achieve that. And we are very open to collaboration because I think that's very, very required. And straight after this Zoom call, I'm going to get in touch with Aditya and Tarush definitely to see how our content can, be also online as well. Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you for that perspective. I think I have to control myself sharing my views about all this. And I have to, yeah. Baidurja, if you want to share about your model, how you do it, and yeah, thanks.
Sure. I think, like Vivek said, one thing I'm realizing that, of course, there's a lot of complementary strengths within this group, and it'll be great to sort of, explore this offline after this discussion. Right. So, in terms of our model, so if you're looking at school leadership, the HMs and the principals, I think there are two questions: is what do you train them on, right? To training karate kisme ho, and kaise karte ho? How do you train them? So before I go there, I'm just curious because it's a very small, intimate group. Can I ask like a question? Like, like if you go back to your school, like the school where you studied, or a school where you have interacted with recently, right? Like Aditya has for sure. If you think of your school, a school principal or the HM, what would you want to train them on? Like one point, what would you want the school leader to be trained on based on your experience? If you can just respond over the chat. Okay, so we're getting some interesting responses. Perspective building, empathy, trust, listening to student perspective, adoption of technology, to believe in the potential of child, exactly. Maintaining relationships, yes, between different stakeholders, yes. Empathy, right? Right, so essentially I would say that this is what we cover in our training. One is this personal leadership bucket. I think even before having empathy and understanding human connections and relationships, I think the self-awareness is very important. How self-aware am I about my own strengths, about my own areas of improvement, about my own insecurities? So this personal leadership is one. Second is, I would say, like Aditya mentioned, adoption of technology. So instructional leadership is one bucket. So, a lot of school leaders, if they go into a classroom, they're not sure that how do I know that the teacher is teaching well? Most of the time, the experience is, the teacher is being very active, interactive. It means the teacher must be teaching well. But the lens is a little bit different. You always have to look at the students to understand how good a teacher is. Are the students able to respond freely? Is there an atmosphere of, where the students are openly sharing their responses, their ideas? What is their learning looking like? So there's always a different way of lens of looking at things. So that is like what we call instructional leadership. Then, of course, drawing up the vision, which we call a strategic leadership. How do you make goals? How do you work towards the goal? And finally, a lot of you, like Tarush mentioned about maintaining relationships, that we call the people leadership. That how do you ensure that you are giving feedback to your teachers, you're conducting a good, effective meeting. So this is what the content looks like for us. How we do it, I think, typically if you look at how adults learn, I mean, there'll be like broadly three patterns of even us learning. One is a direct, we get knowledge from somewhere, be it through a course we are, we are doing, like a whatever course in a college, or be it like a Coursera or edX, where we are sort of understanding and acquiring new knowledge. So that is like the first part, where we train school leaders on new knowledge. And this is mainly through workshops. Because of COVID, of course, a lot of these workshops are just virtual. The second way in which adults learn is by peers. When you're interacting with a set of peers, you gain from their experiences, you gain new insights, and that's also how we learn. So that is again our second approach, which is networking, having this community of people who are coming together, interacting, learning from each other, sharing success and failures, and thus learning from each other. And the third and the final is, how adults learn is by getting direct feedback. When someone comes to you and says, okay, this is where you are going wrong, this is how you have to improve, that's another way for us to sort of learn. And so our third, the final approach is really coaching. That someone from our team coaches the school leader as to, so as they can contextualize some of the implementation from whatever they are learning in the workshop. So it's basically training, networking, coaching. These are the sort of the three approaches we follow as a model. I think Tarush asked that how do we sort of onboard the school leaders, right? So I think there are two ways in which we're doing it right now. So, Alok, it started in January, and within 2 months, COVID hit. So a lot of things changed for us. But what we have been doing is we train both affordable private school leaders and the government school leaders. Now, affordable private school leaders, this is mainly through references. So we have a small set of pool we start with, and they give reference to more. Then there are these school unions in many, of these urban cities, and that's how we sort of spread our network. And that's the hardest to recruit. But I think the majority of our work is with the government. So currently we are working with the Telangana social and tribal welfare schools. And there we're basically working directly with the secretary there, and that's how you onboard the school leaders. Yeah, and I think Kshitij mentioned to give an example of how the model looks like. So I'll just quickly give an example. So we are running this program for girl children with the school leaders in Andhra Pradesh. So there are 124 school leaders who run girls only residential school for the scheduled caste communities. And what we are doing is, again, that we are doing like twice in a month workshops where basically there are three outcomes of it. One is sort of sensitizing the school leaders towards gender behaviors, ensuring that the girls are re-enrolling back when the schools are opening, and also ensuring the girls continue to learn when the schools are physically closed. So that is the training bit. In terms of the networking, what we are doing, we have this WhatsApp community groups where post workshop, they usually have an action step. So they come and share their own challenges and success which they have faced post workshop in those WhatsApp groups. So that is what we are using as a community. And also there are this learning circle which acts as coaching. So there are this learning circle facilitators who again meet like about twice in a month, where they come together in small groups and they discuss what their challenges has been, and then they get coached. So that's how operationally it looks like for us.
Great. Thanks, Badurjo. Arushi, you are the one left.
Yes.
You can take us through your model.
Sure. So, I mean, everyone's already covered quite a lot, so I'm not going to talk so much about why and how, but more on like what we do. And at Learning Wheels, we do work on life skills development. It's, I think, very similar to Tarush's model. But we started with a workshop-based model. So during the lockdown, we started a virtual program called 4C Camps, 4Cs of 21st Century Skills. So our workshops covered topics such as public speaking, goal setting, personal finance, basics of entrepreneurship, health and hygiene, and sustainability. It was almost like, picking up all the topics that are required, or rather like, how Vivek mentioned it, we call it evergreen skills. They're never really going to go away. I mean, it's not just coding. Just saying that on the side. And so the aim, like, our framework is basically a combination of personal, social, and aspirational skills. And we have very nicely termed that as me, we, we skills. And the aim is to help students find a balance between different skills that they sort of need to know, right? This is a for-profit initiative with a team of facilitators who are co-creators and co-owners of the workshops. Each batch has about 25 to 30 students, and we take them through like 4-5 hours of workshops, obviously spread across like weekends. We are now moving towards project-based learning. So from experiential learning of these topics, now we're moving towards syllabus-oriented topics, but through which we can also impart life skills. For example, we would teach how to research online, how to decode information, distinguish between fake news and real news, and how to creatively present any work that has been done by the students. So it's sort of giving them ownership of their own projects, helping them identify, how to do the process, and at the same time helping teachers, because they're already overburdened by the pedagogy, by the syllabus. So we're helping them focus on this. And the topics would be something like backyard science, right? So kids can pick up whatever topics they want to, and this will help them in their syllabus and curricular academic learning. And besides this, we're also creating an online community for discussions and collaboration between middle school students. So whoever participates in these programs then becomes part of the community. And we're also developing kits for like learning kits that complement our programs. So this is, yeah, the operational method, approach. Everything's new for us because we actually only started all of this during the lockdown.
Yeah, I think that is something that that we discussed intensively during our panel, is how we are responding to this whole COVID and schools closed and online. I think, but now we can see from the responses that it is slowly getting normalized. We are making it part of what we do. So that's why specifically I didn't want to discuss that as a separate subject. I think we'll take the last question because we are already running into our what do you call buffer time. So last question that I wanted to discuss was, though सबके आइडियाज सुन के डेफिनेटली ये लगता है कि सो देयर आर थोड़ा सा मुझे ना कॉन्फ्लिक्टिंग ये लगता है. तो व्हेन वी, लाइक आई सेड, यू फील कनेक्टेड टू अ लॉट ऑफ इश्यूज बट यू चूज one particular issue and go for it. Within education also, if we see, there are so many things that you can do. मतलब आदित्य कुछ कर रहे हैं, आरुषि कुछ कर रही है, तरुष और आरुषि is maybe finding some similarities. Vaidurjo कुछ कर रहा है, विवेक कुछ कर रहा है. तो विवेक is trying to see if he can do take a holistic picture of education, whereas maybe some of us have, like I work with Art of Play, जहाँ पे हमने specifically physical education के बारे में बात किया है. पर बहुत ही contradictory लगता है when we look at education as a whole, which I think Vivek has also mentioned today, and it cannot be looked in isolation. It has to be looked in a very integrated way. सारी चीजें एक साथ आती हैं, सारे experiences एक साथ आते हैं और उसको किसी एक idea में learning philosophy में जब we try to put that together, that is when it is delivered as a service or a product or something that children can take, and then we are saying it that it stays for them for life. So it's like a 14-15 year journey. तो isolation में हम नहीं देख सकते. So how do you look at the whole ecosystem of education and what it needs to do, and therefore your specific organization or what you are doing in isolation? Do you see that connect? Do you sometimes try to map what you are doing to what others are doing, and is it adding to the to the whole? Is it like part of the whole problem or solution that we are trying to do? एक और विवेक के साथ जब मैंने one-on-one हमारा जब कॉल हुआ था, विवेक, you mentioned one thing, that education is the only service जहाँ पे the blame is on the customer if the service is not delivered well. कि बच्चे ठीक से पढ़ाई नहीं करते हैं या बच्चों का ध्यान नहीं होता है. The blame is never on the service provider कि टीचर ठीक से पढ़ा नहीं रहे हैं या स्कूल ठीक से पढ़ा नहीं रहे हैं. So I think ये सारी चीजें, I think if you can also share your closing comments and then we'll move into the question and answer. So anyone who has thoughts on top of their head can go.
Yeah.
Yes, Tarush, please.
All right. So I think you have brought up a very good point here, which is about working together and finding each other's niches and finding strengths in each other's work. For example, the work that I am doing or similar work that Aditya and Arushi are doing. Probably till the time a Bedurjo cannot motivate a school leader to explore something beyond their curriculum, and Vivek does not motivate parents to explore something outside a student's curriculum, services that we are offering will never fit into their scheme of things, because right now education is plagued by employment, because everything is related to employment, and which is why when we design our programs we also try to link it to employment somehow, because then it makes a more appealing sell to the parents. But they need to start identifying other things that education outside their curriculum brings into picture. And this is where I feel that a lot of people can work together. Actually, I, as Brainwaves or Arushi or even Aditya, we cannot cater to the entire country at once. If today I feel like doing that, and if I'm able to do that, then probably I will be ahead of what Imbibe is doing, which is a Reliance owned company now. So, but working together, I think we can target those smaller geographies or those smaller sections of society where we can have really high impact on. And this is where working together really will bring us closer to what we are all trying to achieve, to be honest. Anyone else can continue on this.
Yeah, I completely agree. I was just actually typing because Ishani asked this question. Because I mean, exactly what Tarush said, right? So vertically, we would be helping each other by solving different problems, right? Like, you know, Baidurya is doing complementary skill to like what I need. My biggest challenge is to convince parents and schools, especially schools if we do B2B, that this is equally required. And if Baidurya is doing that, that's going to help me with my issue and sort of work together. But horizontally, if all of us are doing the same thing, we're still catering different markets. So it's equally required. So collaboration, especially in education, is highly required, and in any space for that matter. But here, it's even more. It's not a competition. Everything's collaboration.
Mm.
Yeah, I just like to add to that. I think you know, one of the very interesting thing about our work is हम ऐसे impact ना जल्दी कुछ नहीं दिखा पाते, because school leaders के साथ काम कर रहे हैं, then you know, the school leaders से teachers में trickle होगा, teachers से students, so it's anyways a very long process. I think that itself has been very helpful for us to understand that how collaborative this space needs to be. And see, at the end of the day, all we can do, like through our training, is to have like a little bit more enlightened school leader who is more open to ideas, who has a different eyes of seeing things in the school, right? But then if someone, you know, like Aditya does not come and sort of show the student the whole world of how what are the different career services, or someone like a Tarush comes and sort of focuses on learning, then nothing happens. So I think intuitively our work has been very collaborative, like right from the word go. So, and I think it has been very, you know, with some of, I'll give an example. So even during COVID, we were actually helping this set of school leaders to adopt to this new normal. So new normal matlab kya hai ki how do you use this remote and blended learning? Because a lot of the school leaders had no clue. But then once they have realized, now they're like, अच्छा अब मैं parents को कैसे engage करूँ? मेरे किंडरगार्टन में बहुत सारे बच्चे हैं, उनको कैसे करूँ? उनको तो मैं मोबाइल या व्हाट्सएप में नहीं कुछ कर सकता. So then automatically, you know, there were these organizations in Delhi, like there was one organization called Sarthi who works in parent, who is working with parents, and there's someone called Dost Education who is working with kindergarten students. So we connected these organizations, and now they're much more open to sort of work together, even and you know get those institution into their schools. So I think collaboration is the only way. And I feel that education एक ऐसा industry है जहाँ पे कोई monolith और monopoly होना भी नहीं चाहिए, because that is very detrimental to the education in itself. But I think one of the key qualities which is sometimes missing and I would agree even in our space is humility, because ये scale and impact, ये जो दो buzzwords है ना, ये हम लोग सब पे छा गए हैं, right? Like everyone wants to work at scale and everyone wants to have impact, right? But what is that impact looking like? We don't know. And I think that's why humility is really important, so that more people can come together and work.
Thank you. Thank you, Vedurja. Aditya, any thoughts you have?
Yeah, I always have a lot of thoughts. I was thinking, yeah, brevity is probably not my strength, so maybe let me opt out of this. But yeah, let me try answering it in short. I agree with all the views that Tarush, Arushi, and Boidurjo shared. The idea is that, as Boidurjo kind of ended with, that monopoly is probably not needed in education. In fact, in any other industry also, but especially in education, because if there is healthy competition, um, and if there is healthy collaboration, like a good mix of both, so a healthy competition will make sure that we are trying to improve more from our competitors, and in an effort to best each other, we are providing the best offering to our customers, so they have a choice. It's almost like voting. That and I find that voting element missing, especially from rural and suburban India. They have to receive the offerings of somebody who has been funded by a particular corporate. So I believe that if they have a chance to choose which one of them, is the best for them, and if they can make that purchase, or if they can, have some more equity in probably, getting that person on board, um, then I think, we will also be, as an ecosystem, be driven to do better for our customers. So that's where competition comes in. But at the same time, we should not want to establish a monopoly, because I believe, that's also not very healthy, because that then goes to the same area where, the people don't have choice. It's only one company which is, or one NGO which is leaps and bounds over the others. So that does not give people enough choices. That does not give people enough variety of opinions, of thoughts, for them to think which one is, which one is really worth attending to. So collaboration is very important, and especially for impact at scale. Also, I think, for us to accelerate this process, to have this impact at scale, it's better if we collaborate together. For one company or one organization, however big it is, it will take quite a lot of time if we don't collaborate.
Thank you, Aditya. Vivek, your any closing comments before we get into question answers?
And there are just two things, which I would like to share. Ki collaboration is so critical, but we need to understand why it doesn't happen, right? वो समझना होगा कि जब सब लोग चाहते हैं पर होता क्यों नहीं है. And just imagine, जो we have been talking about integrated education, just imagine कि आप लोग अभी जो पहने हुए हैं, चाहे वो कपड़ा हो. Now if you go to a market, someone gives you a zip, someone gives you a cloth. How do you really stitch it, right? So education also makes sense when it's stitched together, and one person can't do everything. ये हमें मानना होगा, right? Because it has a survival value. If you look at Toyota, and I'm not sure how many of you have followed the journey of Toyota. It's the biggest car company, and if you have followed, then you will know. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, now you are.
Yeah. Toyota doesn't make most of the things. Even in one of the latest edition, they got engine also from someone else. They partner with Yamaha, BMW, and that's why it's fast. Because the whole idea of Toyota is that they think of design the whole day, 24 into 7. Because someone can make the steering, someone can make the bulb, someone can make the engine, and it doesn't happen in our sector, which is unfortunate. And I've discussed with you, Kshitij. I think there are three key things which stops, or three key barriers. One is vision. There needs to be a vision alignment, right? That should be a vision alignment between Shamtale and Pro Bono and Alokit and Brainwage, right? And then there should be a value alignment as well, right? So values are things which we don't talk a lot, but it manifests in our behavior, right? Values, it's like iceberg. You see the behavior, but the values are at the bottom, beliefs. So there should be value alignment. And the third is viability. Who pays for the collaboration cost? People say collaborate karo, collaborate karo. Tomorrow I want to collaborate with, let's say, Tarush or Aditya. Who's going to pay for the cost? Because collaboration also comes with a cost. It's not something which is arbitrary. It's tangible. So in that sense, we need to kind of have alignment at these three V's, which I call values, vision, and viability of the collaboration. If that happens, I think we'll see a lot more collaboration happening in future.
Okay. So, sir, there have been couple of questions in the chat which now have gone a little on top, and some of them were addressed during the discussion. Hira had one question for Aditya. What's the niche that Pro Bono has over the career counseling services? That's the question. Aditya, if you'd like to take that.
Thanks so much, Hira, for the question. I think this is a difficult one to answer because when I came up with this initiative, I thought that I'm the only one doing it because I had not received career guidance myself. Then there was a slide called competitors, which I had to fill in for business plan competitions. I discovered there are like so many startups doing it already. Then I thought, why hasn't it reached out to people still? So I thought I saw different websites, and one thing that struck me was that career counseling has become a luxury offering. um, it is more about the qualifications of a career counselor with whom you get to sit. You never know what the career counselor will actually do with the student, and magically within an hour, the student is supposed to be clear on all the career queries that he or she had. So I thought that maybe until later I won't have those many qualifications since I'm looking to start up at the age of 22. There are principals working in schools who have more years of experience than my age. um, so I thought that we have to come up with something more tangible. So that was the first thing. Our career counseling is tangible. We try to provide enough proof to the audiences, whether it's a school, whether it's a student, that what exactly are we going to talk about if we provide career counseling. So we are going to talk about self-exploration, career exploration, career planning, soft skill enhancement, and how do these fit in the story. So that's one. Secondly, since it's a luxury offering, and any offering, as we were also discussing about collaboration, needs to be democratized. Um, it needs to be accessible to all the people. Yes, there can be a few luxury offerings in the market, but there also need to be low cost alternatives. And I saw literally no competition there, which was unhealthy. But then I thought that let me at least start. So that was the second thing, that we started providing career counseling at such reasonable prices that in rural areas and suburban areas, that you know it's a natural choice for them to choose us, because 99 rupees per student is any day lesser than 1,000. And we make sure that our career counseling also gives them enough quality at that price, so that they don't feel like they are receiving something much cheaper than the other ones. And finally, we make sure that the career counseling, like any form of learning, is blended. So we have an online component to it. We have videos, we have assignments, but then we also have in-person interactions to make sure that the human component is not missing. The automation is supposed to answer all the FAQs that they have. What are the career options? Here, have a look at them through technology. How to make the right career choice? Here, have a look at. But if you have any specific situation, then here's our best counselor to answer your queries. So these are the three main things we strive for, and we are also looking forward to. I can't really say that we have done it now, but we are also looking forward to make our career counseling more and more complete as we go forward. So, um, how many skills can we give to them after the career counseling so that they can actually fulfill their career plan or start fulfilling their career plan with us? How many subject-based, knowledge points can we give them through collaboration with people like Tarush or Arushi, where we can give them more knowledge about different subjects, which will help them pursue those career options. This is what we are looking at, and how we can expose them to more opportunities in their field.
Yeah. Some of the participants also have questions. I think they can. We can also ask it here. I will try to bring them up from the chat as well. But if someone has any question, I think the floor is open. Even if the panelists are willing to engage with each other, has any questions to each other, I think we can do that as well. Meanwhile, I'll try to pull out some questions from the chat. I think I had
I
noticed.
have a question, Chitij.
Yes, please.
So, I mean, it could be for Aditya, but anyone can actually add on to this. So, how does one plan to disrupt the pricing model in education? Because what happens is when you price something very high, especially in career counseling, what happens is if I price my service very high, it seems like I know what I'm doing. I'm the most sought after service, versus somebody who's trying to cater to everyone, but like looking at the pricing, it might be like, oh, inka to quality nahi hai. So how does one change that? Because it's so strange in education itself. There's vastly different prices for everything when there should be like a fixed price for everyone.
That is so true. In fact, when I started off this business, and I hardly knew anything about business, I still feel so, but at least a little more than earlier. So people used to always tell me कि आदित्य तुम्हारा pricing इतना कम है ना, लोगों को लगेगा ही नहीं तुम्हारी offering में कोई quality है, which is always a fear actually. And eventually I decided that okay, so there are different motives with which people come to do business, or with which people come to start organizations, and all motivations are duly respected. But I see here in this panel we are highly impact driven, so nobody really talk too much about the money they are willing to earn through this, even though that is something which is a byproduct, but we look at it as a byproduct. And there are people who look at money as the first thing, which is okay. So when people look at money as a byproduct, then impact comes first. And I thought that, so if I am in this industry, let me try to change something rather than doing the same thing which everyone else is doing. So a natural choice was cutting down the operational cost, maybe, initially taking a little lower margin as well from per student revenue, rather than, increasing the margin and only catering to a few students. I also think of this. I learned this from somebody senior. Whenever people don't negotiate while buying from vegetable sellers, they feel like they've lost something. But I saw some very secure people. So, sometimes I used to ask them, "क्या आप negotiate क्यों नहीं करते कभी भी? उसने आपको लूट लिया basically." तो, I learned this that अगर आप खर्चा नहीं करोगे तो आप में कमाने का वो जज्बा भी नहीं आएगा. So similarly, अगर आप per student margin बहुत हाई कर दोगे तो आप पूरे इंडिया तक शायद ना पहुंचना चाहो, क्योंकि आपका let's say 50,000 स्टूडेंट से ही अच्छा खासा पैसा आप कमा लोगे, आपका पेट भर जाएगा. सो आई थॉट दैट मेरा पेट तभी भरना चाहिए जब मैं एटलीस्ट पूरे इंडिया के स्टूडेंट्स तक पहुंच जाऊं या फिर 80% मार्केट पेनिट्रेट कर दूं. सो दैट्स व्हाई आई इंटेंशनली केप्ट द पर स्टूडेंट मार्जिन लो. And obviously technology is a big power, so if we can reach out to many students through technology, then that also lowers the cost. When I used to initially do career counseling, I had to account for the accommodation, the travel cost, the food cost, etc. But now that I take sessions online, it is just the human resource cost. So technology can enable us to lower many, or even eliminate many cost factors. So yeah, these are a few things I feel which enable us to reduce the price, and I think everyone should make a genuine effort to reduce the price per student in an educational initiative.
Tarush also has some financial model around your work. I think if you also want to share your views on this particular point.
So see, I come from the school of thought that no parent wants bad service for their kids, right? If you go to a vegetable vendor and if their kids are going to a school versus for parents whose kids are studying in a GD Goenka or a TPS or any branded school for that matter, no parent would want bad services for their kids. And this is one fact that has been exploited in the past for a very long time. So we have offered services guaranteeing improved skills, guaranteeing employment, guaranteeing good admissions in good colleges, whatever, basically guaranteeing good quality of life. And we have continued to charge a premium price for that. So now coming to Arushi's question, is that there is this general consensus that if it's expensive, it's qualitative. And breaking that stereotype is taking some time. However, because it comes from that thought itself that my kid deserves the best. So, and now the problem is that now there is this question and there is this conflict versus getting the best services versus willingness to pay. They have been cheated in the past. Parents have been exploited in the past. And now we are suffering with the basic problem of willingness to pay, and parents are not willing to pay. Frankly, if you take a high paying model to school or a low cost model to the schools really do not invest a lot of time in defining the merits or demerits of it. The only evaluation that they do is, will the parent be willing to pay for it, or do you have a partner who's willing to pay for it? So from the parents' perspective, I think the costs become a huge factor from the parents' perspective rather than from a school's perspective. Because again, CSRs, they don't care about what funds you're asking for. They only care about the records that your models can prove. So I think exploiting parents is something that we have done in the past. We need to stop doing that. And then we can probably think about democratizing the costing of everything.
Yeah, so there was one question by Punit in the chat. I think we discussed that during our one-on-one calls. Is the challenges that so there are two kinds of challenges, like I had also mentioned in the question, like as an entrepreneur and as a particular like operational organizational challenges. So anyone, like any one of you can share. I remember nice stories coming up while people are responding to this question. So yeah, anyone, I think anyone who wants to go first.
I can go. All
Yes,
right.
please.
Okay, and we've discussed one of these challenges in this part as well, pricing and parents' willingness. But I think the first question that we need to answer is that, are we willing to change? Are we really willing to break the stereotype that we have established? Uh, so I graduated from school in 2009. Probably someone would have done it later or earlier. But we believe and we know that the general consensus remains कि अच्छे marks आएंगे तो science ले लेना, थोड़े कम आएंगे तो commerce ले लेना, उससे कम आएंगे तो humanities ले लेना. Are we really willing to change that? Are we really willing to, integrate new pedagogies of education within the education itself? Probably things that Aditya is working on, or things that Vivek is working on. Are we really willing to implement those things? And the second challenge then becomes is the capacity to drive those changes. Today, I might want to make my kids more empathetic, but does my teacher who has had a bad day, who's beating my kids in my classroom, understand that value? Or does that teacher have that capacity to actually make my kids more empathetic? So willingness and capacity. And then I think parents is something that we have already discussed. Parents become a huge, the most major stakeholder in this entire process to change. And finally, very interestingly, I was at a UNESCO conference and we were having this informal session, and the director of UNESCO New Delhi was sitting there, and I asked him, and this particular session was about jobs and how education drives jobs. So I asked him that I'm an engineer and I have been working in the education sector for last 3.5 years, like actively working, and I have Government of India experience behind me. Today, if UNESCO advertises a job for a national projects officer, for say an education specialist, they will not even consider me, because irrespective of my experience in the education sector, because I have a BTech degree and I do not have a master's degree, I will not be considered. So I think this also needs to change. People need to realize that employment needs a lot of different things than just what you can show on a piece of paper. And once we start driving these changes, these are the challenges that we are facing on an everyday basis while we work. And I think all of you would be facing these challenges. How do you basically align what you're teaching with the outcomes that you want? And the outcomes that everyone wants right now is employment. How do you directly correlate critical thinking to employment or problem solving to employment? We are only equipped to relate a BTech degree to a programmer employment. And this mapping is something that we need to change. So yes.
I want to add to that because Tarush very nicely put that across. And also add to what Baidurya said earlier, right? All of us are running behind like growth and scale, right? And so in a way, like, we want to solve the problem of a rat race, but we are sort of in it because of the system, because of how everything is designed. So, like Tarush, you mentioned that, we want to change even the employment scenario, or how we look at employment, at like, how a master's degree equals like getting like a larger employment. I'm not doing my MBA because I want like a fancy job, but that's how most people see it, right? So I would also say that even for scale, like if we want to just do it for the meaning of it, okay, even if you're solving purpose for 30 students, whatever you're doing, and if like starting a school could be a larger vision than starting an ed tech company that reaches out to like multiple schools, right? So I think that also can be as meaningful. We just need to accept that. We need to sort of value everyone's decisions in a way. Being in the education space, we should have a larger perspective and vision of how other people are doing whatever they're doing, and just their journeys, I would say.
Thank you.
I just want to add one thing. I think great points, Tarush and Arushi. I mean, this balance, trying to find this balance between what ideologically we feel we should be doing, but sometimes different forces come into play. And I think to that I would just point out to one of the last V's of Vivek, which is the viability. because ultimately, whether you're a for-profit or you're a non-profit, there are this market, right? There's this market for getting customers, there's this market for getting grants, and we also have to sort of make our own living, right? I mean, and how to find that right balance, I think that is very critical. I think that for me has always been the challenge, that बोलने को तो बोल सकते हैं, हाँ मैं 400 500 इतने इतने स्कूल लीडर्स के साथ काम करता हूँ, but what is very important and critical is for me to come back again and again and reflect ki, what difference am I making, what is the next step for my improvement, and that is very critical, what I feel, in order to even deal with this challenge.
So just to add to what Boydurjo and Tarush and Arushi said, I think the rat race which is being talked about, I personally am somebody, who has multiple times, even though my startup is meant to be telling people, that don't follow the rat race. Still, sometimes I found myself almost becoming a victim to that, because right out of college, I had not taken up a job offer. And as I think Kshitij has written in the chat also, isn't that the biggest challenge of being an entrepreneur in general, not just education? I believe that when you see, and it's a peer pressure, because it's a template that society has created. अगर आप college graduate करने के बाद नहीं कमा रहे हो in whatever form, enough as to what your peers are earning. There's the same education के साथ. Let's say if your peers on an average are earning 40K, and if you're not earning anywhere close to that, at that time, whatever impact you're bringing to the society, somehow that societal pressure starts to get to you until you become mature. So I think this process has made me a little bit more mature than I was earlier, because initially I used to feel that peer pressure. First 6-7 months were very hard, especially when you start, you don't have any money. Plus, I had never worked a job before, so I did not have any money in the bank anyway. So um, ran out of money pretty quickly when I started, and it became a big fight after that in my mind that, you know, why am I doing this in the first place? I had to start teaching home tuitions again to, survive. Then probably I started earning some money through my startup. Even now, after 3 years of starting up, I still have lesser money than most of the, friends that I have who are working basic IT jobs. Like, they are earning anywhere in 50 to 70 or 80K per month, or maybe 1 lakh per month, just because I have probably not saved up enough for myself. Whatever money I have received also, एक तो शुरू में ही I did not receive a lot of money, because the first 1 year was into establishing the enterprise and everything. Now, whatever money I am supposed to get from the organization, also I push back into the organization कि resilience fund बनेगा. As a result, my personal bank account isn't that great, right? So now it's always a challenge to restrict maybe some of your other hobbies that you have or you had, because you have lesser time, and because any money that you have, there is this constant willingness to put it back into the startup till it does really well, till it reaches that stage where probably it does not need a resilience from your pocket. So that is a big challenge personally. And on an organizational level, career guidance, like I think most of the offerings which we have discussed here, is not naturally a part of the system. So we are all trying to change something. So whenever we are trying to change something, it does require a bit of time to change the mindset, and that, gradual change of mindset requires a lot of time investment. So most probably all of us put together will not be able to pursue too much, apart from what we are doing right now. And we'll have to put maybe 12, 13, maybe even 16 hours of our day into just this. So you do tend to miss out on a lot of stuff, maybe movies, maybe sports, maybe your social life, maybe a little bit on your sleep. So yeah, these are basic challenges I feel every entrepreneur has to face. And um, the good part is that, the return on the other end of the tunnel is really good, which which we expect from here. So yeah, I think these are a few challenges I personally face.
No one told us the length of the tunnel in the beginning, right? that should have been made clear.
It is not clear. I wonder whether it will be clearer once you start seeing the light on the other end. Vivek, any thoughts?
I would like to, matlab, it's so amazing. I'm just so amazed by the wisdom of this group, and also at such a young age. I'm assuming In some ways, of all the panelists, with my gray hair, I'm the oldest. So just so fortunate to be part of this. One question which I would definitely like, all of us to think, because it's an intimate group, is that why are we doing what we are doing, right? Because someone is not doing what they're supposed to do. I think ये बहुत important है जो आज आदित्य कर रहे हैं, तारुष कर रहे हैं, बैदुरी कर रहे हैं, आरुषि, मैं कर रहा हूँ, because someone who is supposed to do is not doing that, and that someone is huge. We are talking about resilient fund and all. Do we know by any chance education, health, and this development fund? What is the budget of the government? The development fund, like not the entire budget, which is 2.35 trillion, 2.5 trillion, just the development budget of education, health, and which are kind of a public good. Any idea? Any random guesses?
They cut it a little, right? In the last financial year, they cut it from the budget by 0.5% point.
So just I'm conscious of time. It's 30 lakh crore. 30 lakh crore. I don't know how many zeros for this development. So just it's a huge sum of money, right? So we have to understand that the work that we all are doing is largely because there's a systemic issue. It's not an issue of resource. It's not an issue, of not having money. It's not an issue of, there's a larger systemic issue, and we need to be conscious of that. What are we trying to fix? तो ये बहुत बड़ा सवाल एक है कि हम लोग करियर कोचिंग कर रहे हैं या टेक्नोलॉजी ला रहे हैं, कितना कर पाएंगे जब 30 लाख करोड़ नहीं कर पा रहा है? How much money as an individual we can raise, right? So that's something that, and what is the core issue? Are we solving the core issue? दूसरा, I also come from India, is a welfare country, right? The inequities are massive inequity. तो आज हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं कि हम बच्चों को करियर देंगे या अपॉर्चुनिटीज देंगे या लीडरशिप बनाएंगे टीचर का. The other question that I want to leave with you, which is the year in your life where you have learned the most? Any random answer. आपके जीवन में कौन सा साल है जो आपने सबसे ज्यादा सीखा है?
Isn't it continuous? Like, how do you know कि ये सबसे ज्यादा था?
But just for the sake of discussion, Arushi, any guesses? The year
2020.
2020, lovely. So just to wrap up, so biologically, not socially, the year that we all have learned the most is the first year of life, right? And imagine a lot of children growing up in a very inequitable world already. So by the time they reach for a product that we all are creating, there's already a massive, they're like at minus 500. So if you don't really kind of fix that, we are in kind of only creating massive inequities, contributing, because we'll always cater to some. And as Tarush said that, क्या बोलते हैं, पेरेंट्स बच्चे में इन्वेस्टेड नहीं है. अरे पेरेंट्स बच्चे में इन्वेस्टेड नहीं है तो कौन? मैं इन्वेस्टेड उनके बच्चे में. पेरेंट्स आर मोस्ट इन्वेस्टेड. Tarush has actually said they are most invested. But because there is massive inequity at a systemic level, right? We see the inequities at the behavioral level. हम लोग आज जाते हैं, देखते हैं बच्चा को पता ही नहीं है क्या करना है राजस्थान में, which Aditya said, but the inequity started at right from the day one. Are we fixing that, right? So that's the second part I want to leave the this panel. And the third and most important, which will help Aditya, because at least for you to live, like, remain sane. We all are engineers. My brother moved abroad, and my parents still don't talk to me, by the way. I never share my personal story. They're still very ashamed, right? What are you doing? But the fact is, what has kept me insane is there's poverty of meaning, and there's poverty of means. So there's poverty of means, which a lot of people are suffering, and there's a poverty of meaning, which we all suffer, right? And by doing the work that we are doing, we are becoming richer every day. So that will keep you insane. By not watching that one movie or not buying that iPhone, you are richer in meaning making. And people who have that, there might be a lesser meaning making there. So let's fight both poverty of means and poverty of meaning. That will just keep us sane, because yes, we are in this for long haul. The tunnel is really long than we can even expect and anticipate. So we are there for longer time. Let's build resilience, and let's see that we have poverty of we are kind of eradicating poverty of meaning from our life. And that's why we are doing what we are doing. So thanks. These are some of my thoughts, and thanks for listening.
I think thank you everyone. Actually, it just took me like past my 10 years and how the journey has been. And of course, like, while listening to the stories from Arushi and Aditya, we've been little longer than where or in the system that you are right now. And like Vivek said, the young energy, and it's there. I could relate to, say, 5 years older of myself. So yeah, so like I said, you may not be, all of us may not be there to see the end of the tunnel, but the journey has already started, and what Vivek is saying makes sense. लेकिन उसमें दो चीजें मुझे लगती हैं. तो एक, there are two kinds of meanings here we are trying to make. So as an entrepreneur, you always be in that conflict, जहाँ पे आप जब एक enterprise खड़ा कर रहे हो, एक कुछ ऐसा which was not there before you started it. It's a very feeling that I have always had. कुछ ऐसा जो अगर आप नहीं करते तो exist नहीं करता. It wouldn't have been there if you didn't do it. So that enterprise, you get really you really attached to it. You associate yourself to it, and becomes part of your life. It becomes part of what you are, and the people and the society around you starts knowing you by the organization, by the work that you do. तो वो एक जर्नी रहता है, और फिर उसको हम बनाने की कोशिश में लग जाते हैं कि आर्ट ऑफ प्ले कैसे बड़ा होगा, उसका नेक्स्ट स्टेप क्या है. अभी मैं एक स्टेट में हूँ, 2 स्टेट में जाऊंगा, या 4 नए प्रोडक्ट्स मार्केट में लेके आऊंगा, एंड वी गो ऑन दैट जर्नी ऑफ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप. Whereas the core subject of this theme, today's topic, was education, and what Vivek is talking about. More than, say, 20 crore children go to school today, and हम आज जो करते हैं, so I always try to take myself to the question of what we are going to do today with the child who has entered the school at the age of 5, is going to be seen in the society, say, 20 years from now. In 2025, 2030, 2035, these students are going to start contributing to the society, to the economy, to the country as a whole. So what they go through today as experiences is going to count, say, 15, 20 years from today. So it's very essential what we do today in order to see what happens there. तो ये सारी चीजें, मतलब, you may maybe come to this stage of, yeah, maybe a little later than where all of us are today.
I just like to thank all of you for holding this space. I think the fact that I didn't know about Arushi, about Aditya. I met Tarush long back in our yatra, but I didn't know that he started off. So there's a lot of discoveries I've also personally made. So thanks for holding this space. This has been very enriching experience even for me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for inviting me. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I also want to thank everyone for holding this amazing discussion. I could learn a lot from everyone, and as Boydurjo said, even I got to know about so many different startups, so many different organizations, and mostly the discussion. I think the best way to spend a Sunday is talking about talking about education and entrepreneurship. So I love this discussion. All these 2 hours of it, and could not even understand how quickly this time passed. So thanks everyone.
Well, I also wanted to thank everyone, but one thing that I wanted to emphasize here is that I think all of us would have attended so many education-based sessions during the lockdown. We would have spoken at so many sessions as well. What stood out for this session is, particularly for me, I've not been active in the Delhi JY group. In fact, 10 minutes before the session, I requested access to the WhatsApp group as well. However, just knowing the fact that after 7 years, I am sitting in a curated session where everyone, Jagriti Yatra binds us, ties us all together. Just knowing that we are sitting in a gathering of people who have something common, that was just great. At the very beginning of the session, I think that feeling was just great. So thank you so much, and great work, guys.
Thank you.
I just want to add that I might have heard of all of you before, your organizations. In fact, I've seen it on the group as well. But it's not the same until you actually connect with people, right? Again, like coming back to experiences and experiential learning. So now that I have spoken to you guys, this is just so much more engaging. And I actually remember I asked Ishani if we could have an education session and we can talk about White Hat Junior or anything else. So I'm glad we did this, but we should also continue informal sessions if we can, like just among us. And if anyone else is interested, and we can talk about like various other points, like how Vivek wanted to talk about systematic change. I think that's a whole different topic in itself. It can go on for hours, and we should do that sometime.
Definitely.
I agree, and maybe next time we can also discuss White Hat Junior.
Yeah, most interesting. And thank you so much, team. Thank you for inviting me.
I want to share something.
Share what? Screen?
No. Because this is a young group, and entrepreneurship is so highly celebrated and over celebrated at times. And Taru said it's a Sunday, and oh my God, and she said life of entrepreneur. So we believe in building resilience. So I just want to share this one thing with the group, which will be useful. Whenever you have time, do read it. Resilience as we know it. It's a very overrated thing as well. As an entrepreneur, I think we must read this article. It's a great piece. As the tunnel is long, you need to have steam in you. So it's important that we know that we need to take care of ourselves. So please, whenever you have time, thank you. Please try and read this amazing piece, amazing, very well written piece on resilience as we know it. So please take care, and thank you, Ishani, and everyone who kind of facilitated. Gratitude to everyone. I also wrote there, so I thought I will not take that time. So yeah.
Okay. So anyway, thank you all the panelists first to take out time on a Sunday afternoon, evening. It is difficult, so I know. And of course, taking out time for earlier calls as well. Thank you, team, for letting me do this. And this is the first time I've been part of very few panel discussions as audiences. This is the first time I've been on a panel as a moderator. So yeah, I hope next time I can do better than today.
Patil is fishing for compliments now. Patil, you are good, yaar. You're good. You're really good.
Thank you. तो मैं इसीलिए मैं ये कह रहा था कि it's very difficult to close this session anyway, because the topic also like doesn't demand closing of discussion. तो मुझे समझ में नहीं आ रहा कि closing remarks ऐसे क्या करूं. I think this should just go on. I think it's very important. And I could see 5 different organizations, 5 different individuals, and I could very easily relate to my own experiences and journey, and I could relate to it and see how different the journeys and experiences have been. और एक दूसरे को share करना, as Arushi said, as Tarush also has been saying, it is important. Or I think the center of it is always going to be what the children are going to experience in schools, and that is going to be very important for all of us, I believe. तो वो अगर हम I think we keep that at the center of it, I think the discussion can always keep going. So while saying that, we can definitely close this session. Okay, so next session is going to be about tech entrepreneurs on 17th of January. So I hope to see all of you there. Okay, see you. Thank you for being there. Bye bye.
Yeah, so
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.